Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Hot Mess Moments.
So hot. Such a mess.
Stop.
Such a moment.
I really hope no one's listening to this, like, on a speaker system.
I really wish someone is listening to this on the speaker system.
Could you imagine someone trying to explain this? Like, oh no, I'm watching a recap of Lost and the Nanny.
And
they're
the
like,
Nanny?
They're like, are you sure?
To be fair, I think appropriate for the Nanny.
Accurate, and we will get into why that was accurate, because Maxwell's got me feeling some things. When we get to the Nanny, we will talk about that. But talk about a hot mess moment. Anyway,
Talk about just hot. It is hot. Is it hot where you are?
I am literally sweating. The only reason I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now is because I don't want to show you my pit stains. I don't know why I said it like that, but my pit stains. You want to see my pitties? Sorry.
Stop. The armpits are the eyes of the face.
We're like an extra hot mess right now because, okay, in my case, I have been like either working, streaming, or doing something in relation to this podcast since like 1.
Ever.
I'm out of it. I've been drinking, so it's gonna be messy. How about you, Beth?
I've been drinking. I haven't been drinking actually, but
Oh, okay. I was like, DMCA me, please.
come for it. You know what? I motherfucking hope they DMCA that. You know why? Because that is an ultimate compliment that somebody knows that I sounded like Beyonce. I would also like to point out, for those that are watching the video, right here where my pen is pointing, that picture's no longer there.
The ghost literally stole it. Like, what the
Literally
fuck?
stole my painting. Just kidding. It's right over here next to me. I have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
Just so
that
you
was
can see.
scary.
Don't
knock everything
it's right
over.
Here.
So Beth is showing us where the painting is, but these 2 episodes, we have so much to talk about.
Yeah, we really do. I have
it's good.
so much to say about Lost, and I'm so excited that we have an opportunity. Just like we did in episodes past, Dylan and I did watch these together.
Yep.
No commentary. We're saving it all here, but we literally just finished watching them and could not hold our tongues anymore, so we needed to record.
Accurate. So, hello guys, my name is Dylan Zahner, aka 8-Bit Dylan. I'm a content creator across the globe. Just kidding. I'm stuck in the United States and I don't really make content anymore. I just make cringy streams and hope for the best.
That's content.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Beth. I'm Beth, also known as Augusta Wind 11, across all of my social media and Twitch and all that fun stuff. I'm not only a streamer, but I podcast about Drag Race on Rob Has a Podcast, and on My Weekly Meltdown, I discuss The Challenge and Big Brother. So a lot of fun things there as well. My pronouns are she, her, hers. What are your pronouns?
He, him.
Lovely. We love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into this. We normally start with the Nanny, so let's start with the Nanny again. This episode is called My Fair Nanny, and before we get into it, just to provide a little bit of context, for those of you that are big musical theater people or just know a little bit about more classic movies, this episode is supposed to pay homage to the musical My Fair Lady. So there are moments in it that are direct lines from the play, really, and we'll kind of get into that. But Dylan, why don't you go ahead as the person who's never seen the show before and give us your summary of what happens in the episode.
Yes. Right before I give the summary, I just want to let people know our impact. We tweeted at HBO Max saying that the episodes were out of order. And you know what they did? They said, you know what? Beth, Dylan, you're right. Honestly, slay mama. You really clocked us on this. I need to stop. I'm just trying to be obnoxious. But we did call them out.
You know, they sent us an email and they said all of that. And I looked at Dylan and I was like, you know what? It's not very professional, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, and they fixed the episode order.
Yeah, they did fix the episode order. I guess that's more the point, not the point that we got emailed by HBO Max, which actually didn't happen, but you know.
I would love, please. HBO Max.
HBO Max. Hey, listen, if
Hit
you want
me
some,
up.
do you want a couple of dumb bitches? We're here for you.
We're here for you.
We're here for you,
But yes, so now when we watch the episodes, they are actually in order. There's no reason for us to have to go through this whole shebang, shabam, whatever of telling you the episode shablam by the end of the episode, which is awesome. But my thoughts on this specific episode. Absolutely a step up from episode 2. Like, it's like night and day, the comedic timing and everything. Oh, God, guys, I think I'm horny for Maxwell.
Okay, this is a hot mess moment. Alert.
Yeah.
I don't know what that noise was. Sorry about it.
I went from not liking him in the first episode to, like, kind of agreeing with him in the second to... I would love to see you naked by episode 3.
It only took 3 episodes, everybody.
3 episodes.
You know what? Let's give him a round of applause, really, because I think most people, it's episode 6.
Oh my God.
The episode that people normally fall in love with Maxwell is the butler, the nanny, the husband, and his wife, or whatever that one. I think that's episode 6.
Is that like the name of the episode?
That's the name of the episode. So I think that's the episode where people really start to fall in love with Maxwell. So 3 episodes early. Congratulations.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My horniness cannot be tamed. But outside of Maxwell, I thought every single character from our normal cast had an amazing moment. Okay. Literally, Maggie had a great moment. Brighton had a great moment. Gracie had a great moment. Love the interaction between Niles, Maxwell, and Fran. Even Cece had a standout moment. Even some of the background characters, I was like, I hope they recur. I hope they become recurring characters because they were amazing. I am absolutely give this a 10 out of 10 in terms of, I really liked this episode. Actually, no, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Only because... personal bias. I don't think seen My Fair Lady. I may have seen it. So some of the jokes didn't land for me, but when there wasn't a reference that landed, there was another joke that followed it up that was like so funny for me. So definitely would give this 10 out of 10. I can't wait to just break down. There were so many great moments within My Fair Nanny. Beth, when you watched this for the very first time, or when you've watched this numerous times, what are your initial thoughts, or what are your thoughts about this episode?
I really like this episode, but there's a lot of things that they do early in the whole run of the nanny that set up for things that I just enjoy. So the fact that not Niles, that Maxwell and Cece are Broadway producers is something that I really think helped me to really be aware of Broadway for somebody who didn't grow up near a lot of even just community theater. There was really nothing except for the High School Musical every year. And so seeing people engage with musicals and plays and that kind of thing built into a sitcom, I think opened my eyes to something and wanted me to be a little bit more curious. So when we have a show and an episode like this that is so heavily laden with a classic musical, that really excites me. And every time I see little things. So one thing I will point out for this episode is in Maxwell's office, it's important to always pay attention to what are some of the posters on the background, behind the couch, because they change it up to either sometimes for a joke, as a little Easter egg and that kind of thing. And this time there was a poster of My Fair Lady. So it's just sometimes it's literally just here's the point, right on the wall, which is really great. And so I love that they use musical theater references. The show is full of references, especially this episode, to musicians, cultural points and such from the 70s that I personally would not identify with or necessarily get. And then the joke is, oh, but how does that compare to the 90s? And now it's fun looking in 2021 to be wow, we're actually farther removed from the 90s watching this than the 90s were far removed from the 70s, and the joke was that the 70s were outdated. So now we're watching a show that is outdated. So the meta of that upon this rewatch for me was a lot of fun. But basically, this episode is always something that I enjoy rewatching because of the references and such.
Yeah, you actually make a great point on that. There's with this episode, I like to call this the birth of the hipsters because there is a scene towards the end where the debutantes, which are these rich white women that are all about class and glamour, are finally experiencing like retro or poor culture. And they're like, this is fun. Let me like take part in this. And I was like, I'm getting like hipster vibes or
like Brooklyn hipsters though, right? Like the people who have like the white hipsters from Williamsburg who can afford to live in Williamsburg, but also are like, oh, I'm kind of a counterculture. Like the ones that can afford the granola lifestyle in an urban place.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I was getting that vibe. I love that. Like I don't know the main debutante's name, but she was like, "Oh, Rice Krispie," and I was like, okay,
Maureen
girl.
Wentworth was her name.
Maureen. I hope Maureen shows up again. I would love if there is a character arc where we see Maureen just become basically Fran or tries to be Fran by like the end of the show is like Fran and her are like besties now. We see this like Maureen is like taking her top off at the beach, swinging it around.
Oh my God! So like, you have seen that episode?
Yeah, she's just flashing her titties everywhere. Yeah. She's like, love it. And that's how it's related to Lost.
Yeah, she shows up on the beach in Lost. She's the French lady, not actually French. Yeah. She's the one that's sending out the signal for 16 years.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Let's get into some of the episode. My notes are kind of all over the place for this. Okay. I do want to point out one disappointment I had with this episode is the fashion was kind of lacking in terms of what we've seen. I think my look of the episode is definitely when she becomes the debutante, when she like puts that on. But the hair's got to go. She's going to need like a brand new, like a different kind of hair with that. Yeah. But she looked sleek as hell. But anyway, sorry, back to the episode. So the reason I bring up the fashion is because Fran shows up in this DIY looking ass sweater that has like fuzz balls that are like hot glued onto it. And it reminded me of going through the thrift store in the 90s with my mom and grandma and seeing like 19 of those like on the rack. And I was like, ooh, this takes me back. This brought back memories. But
I will say this, season 1 is full of look at her eclectic wardrobe with one standout outfit per episode versus the rest of the series is very like everything Fran wears is amazing down to the bathrobe. Like it's like that kind of thing. So okay, I will say for me, season 1 has very few fashion standout moments. It's a lot of like, oh, cool, that striped vest that she's worn several times now, or there's going to be an outfit that has big fruit on it, and like that's kind of the staple outfit or whatever for season 1 and even a little bit of season 2.
So I thought sorry. Getting ahead of myself. So we have this hilarious scene. It's not even that hilarious, but Gracie. Ooh, Gracie, I love you. Oh my God, she is my favorite character. Hands down, top to bottom, Gracie. Oh, I love her.
She's so good.
Gracie and Fran are talking about like flying kites in the park, and she makes this reference to putting men on hooks, and I was like, Dead by Daylight.
Yes, I went there too.
I was like, Gracie became a Dead by Daylight streamer in her 30s. Like
100%.
She's on Twitch now. She's definitely streaming some Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, 100%. She's a rank 1. She is a killer main. And she plays as Lisa for 100%. So she's the hag.
Yeah, and if anyone that's listening doesn't know what Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical horror game where you play as like a killer and you chase after survivors. So it's definitely Gracie's vibe. Totally. Anyway. So then we get to like, after this, everyone is sitting around about to eat breakfast, or they are eating breakfast. And there is a joke here that this is how I know I'm an idiot. I wrote it down and then I got it afterward. I was like, oh my God, that was a really good joke. where Brighton says that he wants to be like his dad after everyone calls him like an idiot. They're basically like making jokes about like, oh, like you have to do math and all this kind of stuff or something like that. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do all that. I just want to be like my dad, a playwright. And I wrote that down. I was like, oh, Brighton wants to be like his dad. And I was like, oh, he's calling his dad an idiot. Like,
he's like, I don't want to have to do work. I want to be a producer. And it's just
yeah,
like, oh, okay.
The
nice
amount
little
of time.
backslap.
Exactly. The amount of time it took me to get that joke was not healthy. But then when I got it, I was like, oh my God, that was funny.
The low-key shade. I think that what this show really excels at is having this shade like drawn that sometimes it's like whenever Niall says it, you know it's like right on the head. But like there are other characters like Fran will do it that's like kind of shady and it takes you a second. Brighton does it a lot. And Cece will do it. Like there's some really good ones in there.
Yeah, and there is I can't remember the specific comment that Gracie makes about Cece, but I wrote it down. I should have wrote down exactly what she said, but I said, Gracie reads Cece for filth, ! Because just Gracie is, I think, the character.
I'll tell you what the joke was if you want.
Please, yes.
Okay, so Cece. So the whole point of this episode is that Cece is trying to engage Maureen Wentworth, who is this woman who has a lot of money, and they want to try to get her to invest in a play. So what she does is she signs up Maggie for like this junior debutante program, and is hope that Maureen is a part of, and she wants to try to get through Maggie. Get to know Maureen a little bit better. And so she says to Maggie, oh, come on, being a junior deb is amazing. You'll get in the right circles, you'll understand this stuff, and you'll marry the right man. And then Gracie goes, but you never got married.
I shouted so loud at that scene. So I was like, Gracie, I think, is the character whose comedy ages the best.
100%.
Because we are all Gracie after 2020. We're just depressed messes. And Gracie is that.
Oh, 100%. And just because it's simple enough to just the rest of the plot is they decide, Fran decides to host a society tea as a means of trying to get Maggie to be friends with Maureen Wentworth's daughter, who's like the head girl in her clique, and also for the other debutantes to see Maggie and all those different kinds of things. And so they decide to host a society tea, but based off of the planning, Niles and Max say, this is not going to work, and we're going to basically need to workshop you just like they do Julie Andrews in My Fair Lady, where the two Englishmen take her because she's got a rough London accent, and they try to make her seem like more RP and have an accent that's up here. And so that's what the whole point is that they kind of transform Fran into, a debutante herself, and then it's better just to have Fran as she is, and everybody loves her, and everybody loves the party afterwards. That's the plot of the whole thing. It's not complicated.
Yeah, it's not complicated, but okay, so I want to get into Maxwell's hotness and why I find him hot in this episode. I'm sorry.
Yes. No. This is important.
It is. So, I could write an essay. So, in the first, don't make that face, Beth.
No. Okay, the reason why I made that face, can I?
Say it.
I need to admit something.
What?
In 2005, I was a junior in high school. And I took the SATs, and I took the very first SATs that required the writing section.
Okay.
So I did the writing, and the very first one, literally the topic was describe human communication, which is like, that is so wide. Like, how do you write an essay that you're completely unprepared for in that moment? And so I kind of went off the rails and was talking about how you're shaped by the world determines how you communicate. And then I basically just wrote an entire essay about the nanny. And my SAT essay was like, take Fran for example, the way that she communicates, and I'm pretty sure I referenced this episode in particular, which, like, looking back, it's like, that's not actually that bad of a topic or an essay, but for your SATs, talking about the fucking nanny.
Oh my God.
I want you all to know I got like an above average mark on it, but it wasn't like stellar.
You know what? The nanny gives and the nanny taketh away. So like in this instance, nanny gave. I mean, you got above average writing about the nanny. Honestly, take it.
And
okay.
Guess what? I didn't submit my SAT scores for consideration for my school, so it didn't even matter in the long run.
Sounds about right. Sounds about SAT. Okay. So my essay on why Maxwell is hot has nothing to do with his accent. His accent is like obviously like a plus, but in the first 2 episodes of this series, he is shown to be like has no personality. Yep. He seems to be very stone cold. He's a bad father. And you get the cute moment where he's going to go play catch with his son is so adorable. I'm like, oh my God, you're like feeding into my paternal instincts or like my like wanting a daddy.
Wanting your partner to be a paternal instinct.
Yeah. I'm like, So that was already hot. And they play up on that again later in the episode when he wants to play ball with Niles, and I was like, fuck, this is so cute. I can't handle it. Like just like I can't handle it. So then what I noticed, and I don't think I didn't see this, producers. I knew exactly what you were doing. So Maxwell starts off fully clothed when he starts working with Niles to make Fran fancy. And by the end of this little like segment, has like his tie off. He's got a few buttons off of his like shirt. I was like, Maxwell, you dog, you.
So what we can basically say here is as they are building Fran up and wanting her to cover up, he's getting stripped down, both as a character and as a father. Yeah,
it was also really weird when Niles decided to cup his butt and then like whisper in his ear. That was like a weird part of the episode.
It was a moment, and then and he was just like, "I'll be your daddy."
No.
Oh no, that didn't happen. Okay,
it didn't. I wish.
Imagine a plot line where Niles and Maxwell have an affair.
There is fan fiction. There is fully fan fiction somewhere
There's
out there.
There's got to be, guys. If in the comments, if you find this fan fiction, or better yet, not in the comments, although comment please, do send those fanfics to us if you find them. / if you've written one that is between Maxwell and Niles.
If you guys and I'm being honest, if there is any really juicy good fanfic, we will do a bonus episode of us reading and like giving a book review of these fanfics.
I'm not even joking. I'm here for it. I especially want those of you who have written fanfiction.
Yes, please. Okay, but there's one scene I have to talk about. So in this, like I talk as if like I've seen like 15 plus episodes of The Nanny. So in this like storyline that we have gotten so far of The Nanny, we have Fran and Cece. We don't get to see them interact a lot. It's mostly like Cece making jabs at Fran and Fran just kind of pushing them off. Fran went on the offense this episode.
Girl.
And hardcore. She was just like that comment she makes about not getting laid. I lost my shits.
It was so good.
I was like, so this tells me that Fran is fully aware of the fact that Maxwell is not fucking Cece and that Cece is frustrated about it. I was like, okay, Fran, she's picking up on it. She's not stupid.
She wants the D, but she's getting denied.
Exactly. So Fran, you're so good. I can't. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So, we finally get to the part where the party is happening, the debutante like party of sorts, and I just wrote down Fran's accent is hilarious. I love this like shtick she is putting on, and I also wrote down in big letters, this is the start of hipsters, which we've already talked about.
Oh, yeah.
But as for like the actual party itself, I think the thing that I really appreciated was this is like clearly a parody on this type of culture. It's a parody of like debutante-ness and being fancy. And I don't know if this is just like how people that were part of debutante culture in the 90s dressed, but I loved the fact, and I could be misremembering this, every woman was basically dressed the same in a different color. And I loved that it was kind of this statement because Fran, despite trying to dress fancy, still dresses different than they do and she stands out. Even when you try to like paint her up to be something different, she can't help it because that's just Fran. And so I loved that.
You just described the actual point of the entire series is that there are going to be many times where Fran, despite any other effort, is always going to stand out.
Totally.
And what I love the most, and this is, you start to see it the most in this episode, and it's a perpetual theme throughout the entirety of the show, which is Fran's impact on this stuffy, repressed household and their impact on her. And so there's an exchange of ideas, there's an exchange of cultures, there's an exchange of love, and seeing how they both interact. And that is the biggest theme throughout the entirety of the series. So I'm so happy that you say that, despite everything, even when she's looking quote unquote boring and repressed, like she still looks like $1 million and she still looks different from any other woman in the room. And that's deliberate. So I'm happy that you pointed that out.
Yeah. Another thing that I picked up on, and I was like, maybe my theory was right, was we had this conversation between Maggie and Fran in the kitchen when Maggie is stormed off and she says, "You ruined this party." And Maggie makes a statement that says, "I want to be you when I grow up." And I was like, was my theory correct? Because if you guys don't remember, I made a theory about Maggie in episode 1 where I said what I thought her character arc would be. And I said, what I think will happen is we're going to see Maggie in the first maybe 1 or 2 seasons start to pick up on some of Fran's habits, but take it too far. And then we're going to see Maggie try to like deal with that and struggle with that. And then eventually towards the end of the show, she comes back and is just like, just kidding. I learned so much from you, Fran. You helped develop me as a human. I could be completely wrong. Also, she becomes like a hardcore luchador in South America and makes money by taking shots off of the back of, I don't know where this is going. I'm done.
So you have seen this episode.
I have seen it. I have. Yeah. Maggie becomes a luchador.
So I've said this before last week when I was talking about how these first, I would say 7 episodes or so is really about developing each character in some capacity. And I feel like this is actually about developing Fran as a character. This is Fran's episode where we really get to see her getting life lessons and changing and all that kind of stuff, which is, I would say, rarer. I feel like there are definitely episodes, and we'll see them, where Fran is the focus of the person who changes, but mostly it's Fran's impact on other people. So when I was thinking about that, this is the first time I've ever really noticed, like, oh, this is Fran's episode, because, next episode will be a different character, and then the next one after that will be a different character. Last episode was Brighton. So, we're going to see these different characters really change and have their moments. So
I love it. I really, really love it. This episode was so good. I enjoyed it throughout. This is like one of the few episodes as well that I could see people wanting to come back to always rewatch, because this has a lot of rewatchability because of the fact that it is a complete reference to My Fair Lady, which I think is a ton of fun. I now want to watch My Fair Lady because
My Fair Lady is a great, great, great show. So even if you're not a big musical theater person, that's a wonderful show for a couple reasons. I was telling Dylan before we started to record that Rex Harrison was the original lead actor who would be like the Mr. Sheffield in this situation, the one who leads the charge on trying to change Julie Andrews' character, and Niles was his sidekick. But Rex Harrison could not sing, so he kind of talks like this in a sing-songy way, and that is exactly how he gets through it each day. Like, that's what he does. And so there are moments where they took exact things from the musical, and like the moment where they go, by George, we did it. I knew we would do it. We said that we would do it, and we did. Like that moment, that's exactly what they say when Liza Doolittle, which is her name, comes out and she's completely different and a debutante and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really great musical, and so it's not like a lot of in-your-face singing. Like, and if it is, it's Julie Andrews. So if you like The Sound of Music, or if you like Mary Poppins, then you're gonna love My Fair Lady. So go just watch the movie.
Yeah, I need to absolutely go watch it. Absolutely.
It's really good.
So that was our analysis of The Nanny.
Before we move on, though.
Yeah. What did I forget?
Who were your MVP and LVPs for the episode?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Okay, so MVP. I'm trying not to be biased and say Gracie, because truly she wasn't in this episode a lot.
You got to go with whoever you think is the MVP of the episode. Most valuable player of the episode.
Gracie, because her reads were like razor sharp wittiness, and
drag
they were so
queens
good.
would cower at Gracie's power at 7 years old.
I love to think that she becomes a drag queen. She becomes a streamer playing Dead by Daylight.
She is a drag queen streamer playing Dead by Daylight.
Yep. She is Elix. She became Elix.
Yeah, she became Elix. I love that.
For those that don't know, Elix is a drag queen on Twitch that plays Dead by Daylight. Yeah.
Okay, so who's your LVP?
My LVP... this is so tough because I really loved every character in this episode. But if I have to give an LVP to someone, I might have to give it to Maggie, because Maggie doesn't have any actual funny moments. She is just a character that kind of pushes the scene along. Yep. She is, like, I think if Maggie had more jokes, it would be better, but that's like me finding a problem, because I do think this is a great episode for Maggie because we saw a lot of character development for her. So that'd be my LVP.
That makes sense. And I want to do a special shout out to Tyler Lyons, who said that he would create a spreadsheet for us as we say what our LVP and MVPs are each week. So thank you so much to Tyler. If people don't know who Tyler is, he's one of my co-hosts for my weekly meltdown. He's amazing. So thank you.
He is truly the best.
Lovely. Are we done with the nanny so I can talk all my theories about Lost?
Yes, I can't wait to hear these theories.
Okay. So we are talking about episode 3, which is called what again?
Tabula Rasa, which for those that don't know means clean slate.
Clean slate.
Which is kind of the theme of the episode.
Which is very much the theme of the episode. So basically, this episode, as Dylan pointed out to me right beforehand, is very much more character driven than it is plot driven, if that makes sense. So it's more about finding out specifically about Kate's background, and then other people have all these different character arcs. So what I thought I would do for this episode and other episodes potentially in the future, we'll take your feedback on this, is that it maybe makes more sense to talk about the specific character arcs that we go through rather than like a plot by plot analysis.
I think that's actually a great idea specifically for this episode. There are other episodes that are like this where they are much more character driven and less about driving like the actual narrative of what's happening in the present day. We did see a little bit of the current storyline that's happening on the beach get furthered a little bit with I found out the shrapnel guy, so we don't call him shrapnel guy, his name is Mars.
Mars. Okay, because I could not figure out what his name was supposed to be, so I just kept calling him Marshall just in case he was an air marshal, but I have theories, so we'll get to that in a second.
I had to Google what his name was because I was so sick of calling him shrapnel guy. But that's like that potential like tiny little storyline only makes up like maybe less than half of the episode.
Yeah, basically the plot points here, quote unquote, are, and I'll say it just, this is succinctly like what happens in the episode. The crew comes back down from trying to finding the signal, and they decide that they're going to lie to everybody because hope is valuable and they don't want to give up people's hope anymore about being saved. So they lie to everybody except for Kate tells Jack what, actually someone who, we've received a signal. The woman's been here for 16 years, so we're pretty much stuck here. And then the rest of it is just really the vast majority of people are saying, okay, then we got to make a shelter and we really got to make sure we're rationing our food and all these things. So throughout the episode, you're seeing people go through luggage, making little tarp, like little camps and that kind of thing. So that's the main plot points here. And now anything that I say differently from that is going to be a part of character arc stuff. So I want to start with Kate. She's obviously the most important character to this episode because what they're going to do is there's a lot of flashbacks to what happened to Kate. I would say, I'm assuming before she gets on the flight in Australia. For those that don't know or need clarification, this flight left Sydney. So I knew it left Australia. It's revealed it leaves Sydney and then was on its way to, I'm assuming, America. And then hour 6, that's where the pilot tried to go back to Fiji, but is off course, blah, blah, blah. We already know that. Yeah. Kate is revealed at the end of last episode to be dangerous, and we know that she's going to be the person who was in handcuffs or should have been in handcuffs, and she was in handcuffs, all that stuff. I'm remembering that now. So we get to kind of see that she's a little bit of a runaway when she's in Australia. So she stumbles upon a farmer. What's his name? I kept calling him Farmer Dude in my notes, but
I think it's Ray. I could be wrong. Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna call him Ray for the time being. Yeah. So Ray discovers him in his sheep farm place, and so he brings her in, and he reveals that his wife died 8 months ago, which left him with a lot of chores to do and a huge mortgage to pay. So he offers to let her stay there and do some work for having some shelter. So she stays for 3 months. And then in the middle of the night, she's trying to leave, sneak out, and he catches her and says, will you at least stay until tomorrow? And I'll drive you to the train station. She takes him up on it. On the way there, they notice a car is tailing them, and then she finds out that Ray actually found out that she was on the run by seeing her picture at the post office in town. And so he knew that for 2 days, which is why he wanted her to stay, because the reward for her capture is $23,000, which he could use for the mortgage. So the person who's tailing them is Mars. And Mars comes up to the windshield and he looks at them. And at first he does like a gun, like symbol, like shoot. And at first I thought it was a threat to Kate, like I'm gonna shoot you. And then you see it a second time and the camera pans out and I realized Mars wants Kate to shoot the farmer. That's what I think it's about. Okay. So this instantly changed from, I thought he was an air marshal or a person of the law who was going to take her, and my mind instantly changed on that. And from that one moment, it made me wonder if he's somebody who is not with the law and is not a law-abiding citizen, but is somebody who like maybe works for a greater like mafia like drug cartel like kind of like organization where he's recovering her so that she doesn't like maybe she's an informant or something and they need to protect her, but they're gonna handle her kind of thing. That's my theory on that. Because it just seemed too fishy. Like, why would he like do the gun thing if he's a person of the law? Why would he drive the way he did? Why isn't he just pulling them over? Why isn't the driver who called it in just pulling over? So there's a lot of factors there that made me think that. Yeah. So, any thoughts on what I've said there?
Yeah. Okay. First off, can we mention who takes a mugshot and is that fucking hot?
Also, who takes a mugshot and looks that whiny in the face? And then who looks at that mugshot and goes, she's hardcore? Hurley! Right. She looks like she's just like, and what? You said you were going to take me to the mall.
Yeah, she's like, oh my God, I got stopped right outside the lip filler clinic. This isn't fair.
Yeah, this isn't fair. I wanted to.
This
Oh my God.
isn't fair.
But she looks really good. My problem is, even though she looks hot always, like, her face never changes.
Agreed.
This is an issue I have, and I don't know if it's an acting choice or if it will pay off later or whatever the case is, but she always looks like the sun is in her eyes and that she's just like a little over it. Like, that's what her look looks like all the time. So even in her mugshot, she just looked like annoyed. Rather, she didn't look like, she looked like, And that's why I'm like, hardcore Hurley, get out of here. Anyway.
Yeah. So then we get to, after like we learn all of this about Kate's backstory, about this like farmer and this person who is like trying to apprehend her, we get to, and I guess Kate's story is kind of intertwined with Mars and also a little bit of Sawyer. In this episode.
Yeah.
So I saw your reactions. I think we have to transition from Kate to Sawyer because I saw the most visceral reactions from Beth in terms of Sawyer.
I need to find. Okay, so yes. Sorry, I'm just looking. Okay, so right before that, I have to say this is what I thought was really funny. Jack decides like, we need to find stronger antibiotics for Mars. So, Hurley, have you checked all the luggage that was in the overhead compartments? And he's like, I'm not going on there with all the bodies. And I wrote, I'm with Hurley. I don't want to go on an essential morgue. Like, that makes sense. And so when he's on the plane looking for different drugs and such, there's a rumbling and that kind of thing. We look over and we find out that it's Sawyer, but it scared the shit out of me. And I just wrote, I hate Sawyer on there because of that. But I do kind of agree with Sawyer in this situation. So Sawyer's whole point in this situation from the beginning to the end has really been about like everything that happened before, like this is now black and white, life or death. And so there's a part of him that's basically saying like, why are you wasting all the drugs on a guy who's just going to die anyway? Like how many drugs do you really have? And I kind of agree with it. Like, why waste those precious resources on a guy that you know is likely going to die? Like, Jack even says to Hurley, like, or maybe it's not Hurley, but he says to somebody like, yeah, we're basically using antibiotics that are like for foot fungus and like eye infections and such on a guy who has like had a piece of shrapnel in him that was the size of like someone's face. Like it was insane. Huge. So it makes a lot of sense. And Sawyer's very black and white as a character too. Like you see him like he's hot and cold with people, mostly cold with people. And you can tell that that's how he sees the world. And I feel like while I find him to be a racist piece of shit, I did agree with him in the situation. Yeah. He's very much in charge, or not in charge, in this mindset of we should just be mercy killing this guy, which if anybody listens to the first episode, it's kind of what I said. And it's not like I want to go around killing people, but in this situation, like if you know this person's going to die and they know they're going to die, like why stretch it out? Like it would be a mercy to put this person out of their misery. But Jack is a doctor, and doctors don't do that. And doctors, let nature take its course and intervene when they can. So Sawyer's of the belief, and Kate is at the belief in the beginning that she doesn't want to do that, or she wants him to just, die, put him out of his misery. And Jack is like, no, I won't do that, and kind of like reprimands her for it. So she kind of has like a 180 on that. And then we find out that Sawyer tries to take matters into his own hands. So Kate meets with Mars, and he wants to know what her favor was that she wanted on the plane. And she said, I want to make sure that Ray gets $23,000, the reward for me. And he was like, why? The guy who ratted you out? And she basically was just like, he had a huge mortgage, a hell of a mortgage. And so he finds that kind of interesting or whatever. Then he says like, I'm gonna die, right? So like, what are you gonna do about it? And clearly Jack got to Kate, and there's a clean slate here because I feel like Kate maybe in her previous life would have just gone for it, but maybe Jack is the one that has gotten into her ear. So she leaves, And Jack sees her leave, and then you hear a gunshot. My initial thought was she gave the gun to him, and he killed himself. And then you see Sawyer walk out of the tent with the gun. There was only one bullet left. Sawyer talks to Kate beforehand and says, it's one more bullet. Everybody here is listening to him growl and yell in pain, and it's awful, it's unnerving. And wouldn't it just be a mercy killing? And he just does it himself. Except he fucking doesn't do it.
He fully missed.
Who shoots someone in the heart?
Yeah,
Shoot them in the head. I'm sorry, because at the very least, if you're alive, like, you don't feel shit. Well, it depends on where you shoot them in the head. Don't shoot them in the mouth.
Yeah,
you shoot them in the temple. People, come on.
Well,
anybody who's watched a murder podcast.
I think that there's a lot that happens here, though. So we obviously, like you said, you're seeing the black and white nature to Sawyer, where Sawyer is like privy to this knowledge that rescue is not coming at any point at any time soon. We need to focus on survival. So he immediately goes into survival mode. I'm going to start gathering as much stuff as I can from that fuselage. I'm going to start trying to like figure out how I'm going to survive on this island. Jack is stuck in this egocentric doctor mode where he will not let this guy die, not because he knows it's what's best for him. It's because he has an ego, and if he lets this patient die, he's failed. He has failed someone. And I also
think that this is where Sawyer actually has another really great moment where he says, you're living in the past, what was all before this, which is if you're in society, what you're doing is correct. We're not in society. Things are not going to get better. We need to create our own rules, and we need to like really be more primitive with everything. Like, you're trying to be a doctor. I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important moment because that ultimately, after Sawyer doesn't shoot Mars correctly, Jack just decides, I'm just going to kill him. And he kills him. And we see this important moment on the beach between him and Kate the next day where he says, like, you know, they're looking out and like, it's literally a new dawn, a new day. And you see like, it's literally the symbolism is there that they have decided anything that has happened before this doesn't matter, whether you're a criminal or that you killed someone last night. We just need to look forward and look at the moment here and now.
I also wrote down on my notes, Jack in this episode, it looks very fuckable, but he also looks like someone that would cry after sex. Like, he gives me that energy.
Yes.
Fully that energy. So I want to get your thoughts on another character in this episode, Locke. There is a lot about Locke in this episode. Tell me your initial thoughts. Because I almost cried like rewatching this episode. I literally almost cried at the end.
So we can't talk about Locke without talking about Walt.
Yep.
So I'm going to like talk about basically their story and how it interacts and such. So throughout the episode, we see Walt. What's Walt's dad's name?
Michael.
Michael. Okay. So Walt is kind of upset with his dad because his dad has not found his dog. And Michael is kind of questioning his new friendship with Locke. And he's like, you don't really know him. And as I think a lot of parents understandably are like, it's weird when an adult befriends a child. So like, that's interesting.
And plus you're like, you just crashed on a beach and you're already friends with this adult who's keeping secrets with you. Not cool.
Yeah, not like instantaneously, understandably from Michael's perspective, like I would be there like, so he didn't want you to talk to me? Like, what about?
Like,
and so, but
flags.
I like that Walt says like, no, he didn't say that I couldn't say that to you, which is, that's a redeeming thing for Locke right there. But he says
but the secret. The
secret is that you had a miracle to Michael. And he's like, yeah, we all did. We survived a plane crash. But I mean, it's pretty heavy handed to me that like, that's not the miracle. So what I'm trying to figure out in my mind is the miracle, Walt? Is Walt the miracle? Is the miracle something that is going to happen that we haven't seen yet? Is it something in the past that we'll see through different things? Is it the fact that the dog is alive and Locke knows, and so he's going to try to, whatever the case is. So Locke's whole arc this time around is still being kind of like the mysterious older man, but he knows that Vincent the dog is still out there. And so you see him whittle a whistle, and the whistle has a high-pitched tone to it. And so at the end of the episode, he's whistling, and the dog comes out, and he wakes up Michael, and he says, hey, you have a really great son. I know that you're having a really hard time, like, connecting with him and that kind of thing. And this is something that I feel like could, like, make you a hero in his eyes. So I have your dog tied up over here. Like, why don't you be the one that, like, says, like, you found him and everything? And I think that this is such a wonderful moment to the last fucking shot of the episode, which is, you know, Michael and Walt and Vincent all like, oh, we're all together. And you see Locke, and at first it looks like Locke is watching them. And then you realize with the camera angle, like, they're, like, to his left in his periphery, and that he's actually looking forward at something else. And
I think he's looking up out at the ocean.
Ocean.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, I didn't catch on to that until this viewing, that he's not looking at Walt and Michael and Vincent. He is clearly in his own head thinking about something intense, because his face is very intense, and he's staring out into the ocean.
I still maintain that he knows something that other people don't, and that I think he shared a part of it with Walt, but he hasn't shared all of it. So the miracle thing, there's something that I can't help but feel like there's something supernatural that bonds everybody together. Like, the people who are alive for a reason, or like, it's going to be like one of those weird, like, Saw moments where, like, something here has bonded you all, and, like, you might not know what they are, or, like, it's Clue where they're all weirdly related, or, like, have something going on. Like, I feel like it's going to be one of those situations. So that is, I'm just looking at my notes.
No, but I think you picked up on a lot about that relationship. When I watched this back. Oh, no. What were you going to say?
No, keep going.
I was going to say, when I watched this back, I thought that there was a lot of cool moments, and we'll connect, like, Michael, Son, and Jin, because there's also this interaction between Michael and Son that plays into this awkwardness that Michael's character kind of has. He's an awkward father. He's just an awkward person.
Walt's dad is so awkward, LOL, at the bottom there.
He is. He's just he doesn't understand social norms.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at this in a 2021 lens, I'm like, feel that girl completely. I think a lot of people are Michael in this situation.
Yeah.
But it feeds into the fact that Locke is this, like, weird father figure to Walt very quickly after this crash. And it's strange. It's like, outside of this plane crash and the situation we are in, if we saw this relationship between Locke and Walt, we'd probably be like, this is weird. Like, there is something strange here, like, red flag alert. But that scene between Locke and Michael, like you said, kind of give it a redeeming quality, to where he's, like, trying to teach Michael a lesson, being like, hey, I know, like, this relationship I have with your son is kind of odd, but I want the best for Walt. So I want you to be a good father. Here, go be a good father, which I thought was an interesting character choice for Locke in this situation, because we don't know anything about Locke. We literally don't know anything. All we know is that he cares for Walt, and he cares about Walt's relationship with his father in this moment.
So another thing to point out with this is something that is, I think, going to make you happy. But so you told me in the first episode that elemental things like rain are really important.
Oh, yes.
And so I've been thinking about that every time there's something that has to do with weather or something. And so this episode, seemingly out of nowhere, it rains. And then they're all getting shelter and all that stuff. This is where the conversation between Walt and Michael happens, where Walt kind of tells him, oh, yeah, Locke said you had a miracle. and there's this awkwardness between them. And then Michael promises him, I will find your dog, and it stops raining immediately. So this once again is like, there are things that happen with the elements that things instantly change soon after in terms of characters or whatever. So we see some things like the fact that the urchin all of a sudden allowed the baby to kick, and baby hadn't been kicking for a while, like in the last episode. And then this time, like, the rain stops as soon as like Michael makes a promise, and then the promise is delivered on. So there's something to me that I feel like is the rain starting and stopping, like correlating to people change. And the other thing that happens is Mars comes awake for the first time with the rain. So is the rain like a resetting thing where every time it happens, something big is going to happen to a couple characters? There's going to be a shift. There's going to be a change. There's going to be an element that was either missing that gets added or gets taken away from them. So again, I can't help but feel like this is like a little bit like Hunger Games, where like somebody is manipulating the elements and such, which again makes me feel like is this like a coincidence that they're all survive? Like, it's just like all this kind of stuff. So I have a lot of questions there, but I wanted to put that out there as well because I know that you had told me that.
Yeah, before. I think another element, if we're going to continue on this trajectory of like your thought process on elements, I think another element is when they film scenes during the day and when they film scenes at night. There is... In this episode, it's during like midday. It's probably like noon, and they're moving all of this luggage and stuff. And out of nowhere, it just becomes nighttime. Like the scene shifts, and then we're back at the tent with Mars, with the shrapnel, and it's immediately nighttime, as if like there was nothing important that happened in between noon and nighttime. But it's important that it's nighttime because we have this moment where Sawyer and Kate are trying to light this fire, and they have this intimate conversation about like what to do with Mars. And so similarly to your point, elements do play like this kind of role within the show where the island is like the third character, and like the elements are a third character in the show. Yeah.
It reminds me very much of like if you can't talk about shows like Friends or Sex and the City and not talk about being in New York. Like New York is a character in the show. It's very similar to that. But I would also say this shifting specifically of time, and I'm happy you brought that up, really I think messes with me with some of the character development. For example, are we just not going to watch Charlie do drugs, or should he be withdrawing right now? He's not withdrawing. So... this is what the hell. And so as part of that, me being crazy and sitting here thinking like, oh, the rain came. Maybe he has no withdrawal symptoms anymore because the rain came. Like, so it's one of those things. Okay. So that was one. And also, how the fuck, sorry, this is just a question. This has nothing to do with the theories, but I just saw on my notes here and I agree. How the fuck does Jack know what the guy's temperature is? He's like, oh, yes, he's reaching 104. Fuck you. Yeah. Nobody can tell with their hand. Nobody can tell. Well, you are stupid. Sorry.
Well, I have to assume that there has to be a thermometer in someone's luggage. They have to have a medical kit somewhere with a thermometer.
He did not pull a thermometer. He touched the guy's head and said, yes, he's approaching 104.
Well, what you didn't see is when he pulled the thermometer out of the guy's ass with his other hand. Yeah, he licked it. Why did he lick it? No. Beth. Oh my God. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Before we get too distracted, there's a few notes that I have to put. So last episode, you had a theory about this like monster in the wilderness, and you said, I think it might be a dinosaur. They literally talk about this in this episode with Hurley and Jack theorizing. Yeah. Is it a dinosaur? Is it some sort of like extinct animal? What are your thoughts on that?
So here's the thing. We do see something chase Michael when he's looking for Vincent as well. That does not sound like a dog. First of all, dude, do you not know what your dog sounds like? That is a Labrador. It does not sound like, come on, buddy. So all I'm thinking is, guy's going to get mauled to death by a polar bear. Awesome. Great. And then he doesn't. Instead, he runs into Sun, who is... bathing because her jerk ass of a husband says, have you looked at yourself? You're dirty. I know off topic, but I need to discuss this.
Go for
First of all,
it.
how fucking dare you?
Right?
You are in a fucking plane crash, and she's been working with you, and she's dirty because they're on a hot, deserted island with no showers, no laundry. Shut the fuck up, dude. What the hell was that? So that was number one. Number two, she's going off and showering because of him, and this dude walks up and is being chased by something. This thing stops chasing him as soon as they get to the beach, where she is, just fully topless, trying to wash himself. And he's like, I didn't see anything. You fully stared the entire time, Michael.
Yup. He saw
stuff.
everything.
You saw stuff. So I just feel bad for Sun because she's got two jerk-off men who are like awful. Anyway, so yeah. It does make me feel like there's some kind of, listen, there's anachronisms, there are elemental things, blah, blah, blah. I would not be shocked if there's a dinosaur or if there's another creature that should not be there. Like, is there all of a sudden like a lion? Is there going to be an elephant? Like, there are all these things. Like, is this going to be Jumanji? Are we going to just see a whole bunch of shit come out of nowhere that doesn't make sense?
I hate that you just called it Jumanji instead of Jumanji. And the 90s kid in me is truly offended.
Jumanji, tomato, potato, tomato.
Okay. So, after this episode, what are your key takeaways? Mm-hmm. What questions do you have? And how do you rate this episode?
Okay, my key takeaways here is that characters who seemingly are evil are making good points, and characters who are seemingly always good are making poor decisions. And I think that this idea of good and bad is being hit over the head to say, like, you can't be relying on even what people are presenting to you as who they are as the only thing to be thinking of them. You can even see in the way that Sawyer is looking at Saeed afterwards that, like, because he throws him an apple at the very end, like, you can tell that after trying to kill somebody and not succeeding, after a conversation with Kate, the experience that they're going through, all of this is milling over, and he's like, it's going to do me no good to just, like, continually I'm not saying that he just all of a sudden becomes like a better person, but you can tell he's thinking about that kind of stuff. So I do believe this sense of clean slate, like, we're going to be here a while. We have to live for ourselves here, and we need to make the best of what's happening, and we need to make decisions as a group and rely on each other. That is very, very big here. My questions still are, what the fuck? Who the fuck? Why the fuck? Where the fuck? How the fuck? No.
Accurate.
Wait, I missed one. I said how twice, but whatever.
Honestly, I cannot wait for, this is not a spoiler. The next episode is called Walkabout.
Okay.
And I think is one of my favorite episodes of season 1 outside of the pilot.
Ooh.
I cannot wait to see your thoughts, feelings, and theories after this 4th episode. But before we get ahead of ourselves and talk about episode 4 and like end up this going on and on and on, let's get to some viewer comments.
I gotta also do MVP, LVP here, bitch.
Oh, I forgot. Oh my God. See, I'm so used to it being like, I'm so used to it being at the end because we did it at the end of the episode, last episode.
Oh, okay. We can discuss the format. I think it makes sense to do it right after we've done our analysis or whatever. But if we wanted to just save it for the end of each episode, we can do that too.
Okay, so who was your MVP of the episode?
My MVP has to be Walt Locke, because he gets the dog.
Yeah, I thought you were about to say Walt. I was like, okay, that was not who I thought, but yes,
that's
agreed.
Left field.
Agreed, Locke. Yeah, great MVP for the episode. Who's your LVP?
And even though I agreed with him with a lot of things, even though I hate to admit it, Sawyer, because how do you not fucking kill someone with a gun? Like, you are literally a piece of shit. Like, you killed... Actually, you know what? He's horrible with a gun. It took him how many shots to kill a fucking polar bear in last episode? And this time he can't hit the heart? He should not be trusted with a gun. If they give him a gun in the future, if they find one, if they make bullets, if they do something, they're stupid. They're stupid. Nobody give him a gun.
I think this is also a little bit information about his backstory. Like, clearly, he doesn't have experience with firearms or anything of that caliber. So, like, maybe that feeds into his character and, like, who he is. He reminds me of, like, these crazy political, like, super right-wing people that feel like they're, like, super badass. But then when you, like, put pedal to the metal, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, Sawyer literally doesn't, like you said, doesn't know how to fucking shoot a gun. He can't even kill a guy that's, like, laying on his back, dying already. So it just speaks to Sawyer. But we got some great viewer comments this week. So first off, we got Carrie McKellar, who on our last episode commented and said, yes, Scholastic book fairs are still happening.
Yes! Okay, great.
Yes, they still do book fairs. She's seen book fairs at preschools before, so that is amazing. I love that people get to experience a Scholastic book fair. Love it.
I miss my bookmarks and my erasers.
Same.
Oh, yeah, and the bucks too, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, something about reading.
I mostly went to those and was like, yeah, great, I got these 2 books, but look at the school supplies.
These gel pens.
Oh gosh, gel pens. Did you not just draw on yourself with them the entire time?
All the time.
Or like I used to draw on my shoes, which I'm sure like after my parents paid like what, $40 for a pair of shoes, they were really happy that I just sat there and destroyed them with gel pens. Like, great job, Beth.
Gel pens, man, where's the comeback? We need gel pen redemption. We do.
I mean, they're out there, but come on, nobody did gel pens like middle schoolers and like 4th, 5th graders in like 2000.
It's true. We also had a comment from James Garrison who says, was trying to watch with the podcast, but after this last episode of Lost, I need to binge.
Oh, that's how I feel.
I know.
But I can't.
So,
do it for me, James.
Yes.
Was that his name, James?
Yeah, James. Yeah.
James, do it for me.
So James, binge
I'm gonna cough again.
away.
I'm so sorry.
Go for it. Binge away, James, please. Let us try to catch up to you, okay? I want you to watch and experience Lost at the speed you want to watch and experience Lost at, and just come back and let us talk about it. I did the same way. There is a Shoutout, another podcast I love, Sexy Unique Podcast, and they do a watch through of Rock of Love, and I, even though I've already seen the show, literally watched the first, like, all 3 seasons within like 3 weeks. It was not healthy.
Oh my God.
And I'm still listening to it as it goes. It's just that good. And then we got some comments from Andrew and Angela. Angela just like clapping her hands saying, yes, girl. And Andrew saying, oh my God, the evil eye.
Yes.
It's true.
My elbow just cracked. Did you hear that?
I did. I did
like,
hear that.
Here we go. It's not the evil eye. It's just Beth is possessed now.
Oh, that would be creepy. Don't go that route. I don't need that.
Hi, Dylan.
You're like, hi. How goes it?
Hello, listeners of Hot Mess Moments.
I hope you all are having an exquisite day. See, this isn't as scary without the video version. So if you're on audio, we just sound like we're like, Siri.
Yeah, we sound like we're on NPR.
Yeah. Welcome to NPR.
Yeah. Ooh. Lovely. Thank you.
The one thing I did want to mention is shout out also to the Hello Friends podcast.
Yes! I love Eric and Nicole.
Yeah, so I recently showed up. I was interviewed on the Hello Friends podcast by Eric and Nicole over on their podcast, and they said they want to invite us back over, both of us,
yes.
Beth and myself. So maybe we'll get them on in a future episode where they can watch The Nanny and LOST with us and give their thoughts, and we can just be messy. It's a great time.
But yes, everybody check out the episode if you want to listen a little bit to what Dylan has to say and what he's talking about with the 2 of them. He told me not to listen.
Yeah, don't listen. There are some spoilers that are mentioned. Eric couldn't help himself. He had to mention some
But here's what I ask you to do. Why don't you listen to it and tell me when the spoilers are so that I don't listen to that part.
Oh yeah, it's towards the end. It's towards the end. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you when we start talking about Lost. Just stop listening.
Okay, I will do that because I want to listen.
Yes, do it. Okay, well, this has been a super fun episode. Tabula Rasa and My Fair Nanny. I am so hooked still on The Nanny. I cannot wait to watch episode 4.
Again.
Well, yeah. Oh my God, you're right. I don't have an episode to watch. I'll just watch it again.
I think we should watch it again because, again, I think it's important to see the progression. Now, what does the Nuchschlepp look like now that Fran did the whole My Fair Nanny thing? You know,
that's very true.
So that's what I think is important.
Yeah, I
can't wait to see one of your favorite episodes next week.
It's so good. Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to follow us at Hot Mess Moments on Twitter. Please, if you can, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I am pleading. Please. I am begging. Ooh, you want to see my pitties?
Like, if you want to put a 5-star on there, we love it. But don't just do the rating. If you have 30 seconds, write us a little review. The reviews really help to boost our podcast up so that others can find us as well. Make sure that you are subscribed to Hot Mess Moments on YouTube if you care about watching the video version, or even if you don't, if you just want to subscribe out of the pure kindness of your heart. And if you're on Spotify, make sure to leave any I don't know what happens on Spotify.
I don't think they have a rating system on it. Just stream it.
Just watch it. Download it. There you go. Fun times. But thank you guys all so much for your lovely support. We are so blown away by the views and the likes and the comments. And please, if you have thoughts, share them.
Yes.
If they were about The Nanny, share them with me. If they were about Lost, share them with Dylan. And where can they find you, Dylan, to share those thoughts?
At 8-Bit Dylan. That's 8, the number. BITDYLAN, baby. I hate that I said that. I hate it.
And if you have thoughts about The Nanny, share them with me at Augusta Wind 11. Augusta as in the city. Augusta, and then wind as in and then 11, the number. And you can tweet those at me, DM me, whatever the case is, because I love to talk about The Nanny.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next Thursday with our reviews of the 4th episode of The Nanny and Lost. And
what's
until
it called?
then,
Walkabout and
the Nuchschlepp.
The Nuchschlepp.
See you guys then. Bye.